Travel and Things in association with Sun Destinations present In Conversation With. I'm your host, David Batsoffen, and I'm joined today by legendary and iconic singer-songwriter David Kramer. David, good morning. Welcome to you.
Yes, good morning, David. Nice to get together again. As we were saying, it's been a long, long time.
It has been, and I'm so glad that you could make this chat. And more importantly, I'm so interested in this Wereld Kittie. I knew nothing about it, so I phoned your publicist and I said, tell me the story, and I want to talk to David. And here we are. So
yes,
tell me the story about this. Why now? Although I believe this has come back again. This is not the first time this has been seen on stage in Cape Town.
No, I wrote it last year, 23. I wrote it for the Afrikaans festivals, particularly Kaka and Ka. Kaka and Ka and Nati, put up some money for me to write this musical, and so we launched it there last year, and then it went to the St. Oosterfees and also to Woordfees in Stellenbosch. So yes, it has been seen in Cape Town, but the response from the audience was so positive. I decided that we should take it further than the festival circuit, and so I tackled it again, making some changes and additions
right.
to this production. At first, anyway, I wrote 2 new songs, and I added some visual imagery, and just polished it up a bit, and we decided to present it again now in Cape Town at this new venue, the Blik, at the Epping Market, Cape Town Market in Epping.
And what has the response been so far?
Well, firstly, the response is people are enormously surprised by this wonderful theatre that has been built at the Paradise Hawkers Market. It's most unexpected. You come there and you don't really know what to expect. People, I don't know if you know Cape Town, but Epping is an industrial area, and so there's a initial reluctance, like, I don't know if I want to go out to Epping, and is it safe? And so firstly, we just perform this show over weekends. We do 2 shows Saturday afternoon and 2 on a Sunday afternoon, so that people can get there in the daylight, and it's well signposted, and they get there, and there's fabulous parking and security, and they walk in, and then jaw-dropping foyer and theatre. And they love the show as well.
I was going to say, and a jaw-dropping show, I'm sure.
Say again?
And a jaw-dropping.
Yes. Well. No, they love the show. It's anyway. So to your question about what it's about, look, I come from the town of Worcester in the Wereld, and in 1905, a man called Joseph Pesach was born. So he would have been about my father's age, and he grew up in Worcester. And I first heard about him through my wife. She had an Aunt Lily, and Aunt Lily told us that Joseph Pesach used to court her when she was a teenager. Anyway, the family decided he wasn't a marriage prospect because he was a musician, mind you.
How the circle has closed, David.
So he was a classical violinist.
Right.
He joined the Cape Town Symphony Orchestra at 19 years old, and very soon went off on tour to the UK with them, and found himself working at the BBC. And he was a man with I would imagine, fairly large personality, and got himself a radio program where he started to tell South African stories and sing songs, South African songs, and most of them were old Afrikaans liedjies
Right.
that he translated into English, which became popular. But really his rise to fame happened in America. He was then invited to join NBC in New York, and a similar thing happened there. He had this radio program. He called a show called African Trek, and he started to sing these songs, which he claimed as his, which were translations of old Afrikaans folk songs. He there also met his future wife, who was a refugee from Amsterdam during, in the war. The war started in 1939. She came and she got a job in his office, and they met and discovered they were both singers and guitar players and musicians. And anyway, they fell in love, got married, and became known as Marais and Miranda. He had changed his name at this point from Joseph Pesach to Joseph Marais.
Okay.
So he adopted an Afrikaans persona. And they then eventually ended up in Hollywood and became very friendly with the stars of that time, like Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall and Lana Turner. And they became part of the Hollywood set. And he then wrote for Doris Day and Johnny Ray and Frankie Lane and Joe Stafford, and he had international hits, particularly with the song we all know as Seikabosi, which he presented as Sugar Bush, I Love You So, and that was a huge hit for Doris Day and Frankie Lane, and also for Eve Boswell. She also had a hit with it internationally. So yeah, so the story is about really the question is asked, whose songs are these and whose stories are these? And so in this age of being more sensitive to cultural appropriation, the musical resonates now, even though it's about something that happened long ago. It's a very topical issue.
Would this then be in similar vein to the appropriation of Wimmerware, The Lion Sleeps Tonight, that was turned into a huge hit, and the original writer was never credited with the song?
Yes, well, yeah. It's but at least we knew who the original writer. I mean, they've found out through Rian Malang did all that research, and but yes, it's that period when when credit was not given to the originators of songs, and particularly if they came from Africa, through Gallo, who had never just paid him off for the recording. And so that's a similar story, I suppose you could say. But the thing with Joseph Marais is that he took a whole catalogue of these songs, which we think of as traditional volksliedjes, and in this country, the question of origin, is a contested one. These songs are often thought of, and they were very much part of the FRK bundle, so they were like Afrikaanse liedjies, and not really credited to the brown community who actually created them. So that's an ongoing story at the moment as to people being acknowledged for their cultural contribution to Afrikaans. I mean, which I'm very happy about, because it's been an issue for me since the 1970s, when I first realized that Afrikaans wasn't a white man's language, and that it came out of the mouths of slaves. I wasn't very popular for saying that, but anyway, it's now much more common knowledge than it was 50 years ago.
David, did you find new talent for this particular production, or are you using the existing talent pool that you and Talib used to tap into when you did your productions all those years ago?
No, it's both new and people I've worked with before, but this is the next generation. Talib wouldn't have known any of these people.
Okay.
These have all come after Talib's death, but I have worked with two of them in previous musicals. Dean Barley, who is a graduate of Stellenbosch University. He was in my Cut and the Kings musical here in Cape Town, the revival of that. And Rushni Ferguson was also in Langarm that I did, and Canala, and Dean was in my Orpheus McAdoo musical. So I've worked with them, and so I know, what's that? I don't know.
Oh, you're probably hearing my clock.
Oh, okay. Something's talking to us.
Oh,
all right.
I can't hear it. Don't worry about it. It's
all right. So, and the other two
musicians, David.
Hmm?
It's the voices of dead musicians. They've come to give validity to our chat.
Yeah, maybe. So, and then there is Jenny Stead, who, as you know, I've known for many years, and was recently seen in The Promise, which I think came up to Johannesburg. So Jenny Stead is a very accomplished actress from, for decades, and
right.
I needed someone who was a good actor, who could sing and play the guitar. And I remember Jenny was in a show like that many years ago. So I approached her, and she's turned out to be a really wonderful choice. And then the character of Joseph Marais, I had to find somebody that also, filled those requirements. And I was recommended that I should speak to Andre Blanche, and he's turned out to be absolutely fabulous. He plays the guitar very well. He looks like Joseph Marais, and he has a superb musical singing voice. So
he ticks all the boxes. But I suppose for people who don't know what Mr. Marais looked like, it wouldn't really matter as to who played him.
No, in this case, I'm trying to recreate the sense of that you would be attending a Marais and Miranda concert. So they have done a lot of work on vocal work to make themselves sound like Marais and Miranda, and they play and sing exactly like that. And when you see, look, Jenny is blonde, and so she doesn't look so much like Miranda, but Andre is dark, and he could very much pass for Joseph Marais, and that makes me very happy. I like that. I don't think two blonde people would have quite cut.
David, when you walk the streets of the Western
Cape, I don't
Cape,
walk the streets, David. I used to, but I don't anymore.
Well, you know what I mean. When you go out, I'm assuming that you do some of the shopping. You are seen in public occasionally. Let's put it that way. Do people still recognize you and say, "Where are the original Red Feathers?"
Oh my goodness, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. No, every day, right. Every day.
But did you?
I mean, I don't wear the red shoes every day. I mean, I've sort of always kept them more for my persona and for putting them on stage. Yeah. So, but I get asked, waar is die rooi veldskoene? You got the wrong shoes on today. And then usually the people asking are actually wearing red shoes themselves. And I say, oh, there they are, because I've been looking for them.
Because who would have figured, David, all those years ago when you did that advert of chasing that Volkswagen bussie, that people would still remember it? It's up there with I should imagine that like it's not inside, it's on top, that type of advert. um,
Yes. Yes.
has just
Yes.
stuck in the minds of South Africans and maybe even internationally, for all I know.
Yeah. No, look, they remain popular. They are up on my video channel.
Mm.
And so, I mean, three generations, of, I mean, there are young fans of 10, 11 years old, who love the Volksie Bus ads, who seem to like some of my songs. And so I find that quite interesting, that there's been longevity
Yeah.
with the songs and with the ads, are something perhaps more in the minds of an older generation. But anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, it's persisted.
Well, that's great, and I think as a singer-songwriter, in your particular instance, it must give you a really nice, warm feeling to know that your songs are still around, rather than these one-hit wonders from the 60s and 70s, where the person or the group had one song and then they were never heard from again.
Yes, no, it's great. It's wonderful to hear people still playing my songs and dancing to my music and all over the world now because of the internet.
Right.
I get messages from, strange places, and people are listening, and watching the videos. I have this video channel called David Kramer on YouTube, and it has about 160 videos. So you can go and see the sort of performances I did
Yeah.
in the 1980s and so on. And there's also some musical extracts as well.
Wonderful. David, can I take you back to when you finished school? Did you know then what you wanted to be, or did getting to this particular point in your career, was it as convoluted as the Swartberg Pass?
Yeah. No, I didn't know. I had no idea. Because I loved. I went to art school when I was in high school, and I
Right.
loved painting and I loved poetry and those sort of things were very close to me. But as my parents kept pointing out, that wasn't going to be a career choice. So I didn't really know what I was going to do, and ended up sort of going down the wrong road until luckily I got this bursary from a local textile factory, and they sent me to Leeds University to study textile designing.
Okay.
Because they knew I was artistic and they knew I was interested. I had also had the science, and I was, at a sort of engineering bent or whatever. But so they suggested I go and study designing in Leeds,
Right.
and which was an amazing opportunity for me. And Leeds in the early 70s was, fantastic in terms of music. Every top artist breaking, through at that time, like Elton John and Rod Stewart and Paul McCartney and Wings, Leonard. They were all there. I saw them
Yeah.
all. And so I was very inspired, and I started performing at the folk clubs in Leeds and writing my first David Kramer songs, I would say. More as an act of survival than anything else.
Hey, listen, anything to keep a roof over your head and food on the table.
No, it wasn't that. It was the
Oh.
political environment.
Okay.
Yeah, I had to employ humor and take the piss out of myself. So I started not to try and shy away from my South African identity, but sort of embraced it in a very humorous manner, which they liked. So I cut my teeth on the campuses and folk clubs, the campus of Leeds and folk clubs in the city, with this sort of South African persona, which, at that time, as you can imagine, the politics of apartheid South Africa didn't go down.
Yeah.
But I found a way around that. And so when I came home, I had a bag full of songs, and and it took everyone by surprise. here in Cape Town.
Most of all your parents, I should imagine.
Look, I don't know. My parents, us, yeah, my parents.
Listen, we all
it took them a long time to. It took them a long time to be reassured that I wasn't going to end up a starving artist like others that they knew of.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. My parents are probably from a similar generation to yours, and they wanted me to have a job to fall back on. So I qualified as an electrician, and then years later, decades later, I was talking to a very well-known South African satirist. And when I told him about job to fall back on, he said to me, "Why do you have to have a job to fall back on? Why don't you have a job that you can fall forward into?" And that changed my outlook entirely. And I thank
it sounds like Peter. Was that Peter de Case?
Yes.
Yes.
Only PDU can come up with stuff like that, and I thank him for it often. But I can't let you go without talking about this album. And this was the very first time that you and I spoke. I was on a local radio station at the time. I went to see the show. I came back from the show and I played this entire, and our station wasn't a music station, it was a talk station. And I played this entire album between midnight and 4, every single track on it. I don't remember what the resultant fallout from management was, but for me, this is still on my playlist in my car. I listen to it so often. But my question is, should there not have been a Karoo Guitar Blues 2? Or maybe even 3 and 4, for all I know.
Well, we went into we videoed the show, and we made a documentary of the search for the violin player, which was directed by Liza Key. So instead of releasing another album, the efforts went into producing the first documentary, and then a DVD of the concert of Karoo Guitar Blues. And that captures it, I think, very well. There is actually in my drawer somewhere, there is a whole album that could still be released because I took when they were here, I took them into a studio in Cape Town, and we recorded a lot of their songs.
Right.
Just for posterity, I knew that this one is a very early recording, which was done at the Baxter concert. It was just taken off the desk, but there is it's one of the projects that I can get back to, but I haven't as yet.
So let's go back to Wereld Kittie. How long? No, let me.
If you look at that image, if you look there, that Koos Heuningbeck is very much influenced by Karoo Guitar Blues, as you can see.
Yeah, I see. So
playing the blick guitar. Yeah. So my experience with those musicians, came through in creating this character.
Will Kittie have legs? In other words, would you consider bringing it to Johannesburg or taking it further? Okay, well, end of question then.
No. It's it could have legs, of course.
Yeah.
But I have no interest in bringing it to Johannesburg, and I can't travel anymore. Okay. That's one of the things. I just my health doesn't allow me to travel.
Right.
And I've got too much else to do. I have a new musical coming up with the Cape Town Opera Company in October this year. So all my focus will be on that now. There's another musical in the waiting that I want to write. There just are projects that I very happily do here in Cape Town. I now have access to this theatre, the Blick, which is a beautiful venue and suits me perfectly, But so to pull up roots and try and put this stuff into other people's theatres and you know, it's more than I want to do, and it's not something I really enjoy at this age. I used to love it, yeah,
but no longer. Is there a bucket list production that you would still like to do? You've mentioned two that you're busy with already, which will see the light of day shortly. But is there something sort of, I don't know, in a drawer or in the back of your mind that you say, this is what I'd like to do. This is what I want my legacy to be, and perhaps not red veldschoens.
Oh yeah, look, my legacy is much more the musicals, in my opinion.
Right.
You know, I've written, I'd have to count now, but at least 12, 13 musicals already. Most of them have been big successes, and particularly international successes. One of them is Cat and the Kings.
Yeah.
And probably will revive that soon. That's something I want to do. I want to do my own new production of it, and not the Broadway version.
I have to tell you, with Cat and the Kings, David, my wife is hearing impaired, so she has difficulty. Normally, if I take her to theater or that, she so enjoyed that show. She was bouncing to every song. It resonated with her still to this very day.
Good. Yeah. So yeah. So now, I mean, you know, I'm at this point where you ask about that. I want to. There's another musical I want to write. So yes, I want to write that something that's lying in my drawer, and I want to, I want to really make sure that some of the big ones are introduced to the next generation. So a musical like Cat and the Kings and a musical like District 6, I would like a younger generation to be able to experience it, and to keep those memories of that terrible period. What happened there, to keep the memories alive. And not to forget how, particularly with District 6, the destruction of District 6, but to remind young people of the amazing resilience and charisma, that these old musicians had, and the people that I worked with and knew, people like Jalip and of course all of the musicians in my band and so on. So so there's plenty to do if I have the strength and the health to do it.
Well, I do hope so, and I do hope that maybe somewhere in the future you do, either I come to Cape Town to see one of your shows, or you bring one up here.
That's the idea. Yeah, the idea, David, is you come to Cape Town. We want you to think it's like you have to go to Broadway to see Broadway. You want to see Western shows. You don't wait for them to tour here. You go and see them there. So you want to see a David Kramer show.
Come to Cape Town. There you have it, from the horse's mouth, so to speak. David, thank you so much for joining me here on In Conversation With. It's been wonderful talking with you again, and I do hope to see you in Cape Town in the not too distant future. We will connect and
yes, please.
We'll share.
Come down, David. Come down. Okay. And let me know when you're coming, and
I shall do.
I'll show you around the new venue, and
backstage at the Blick with David Kramer.
It would be good to see you again. Okay. And thanks. I enjoyed talking to you as well.
It's always a pleasure. My guest today on In Conversation With has been David Kramer, legendary South African musician, songwriter, and stage production producer. If you have the opportunity to see Ver in die Wereld, I suggest that you do. David, once again, thank you for joining me on the show.
Thank you. Bye-bye.